In 1983, the promise of the digital age seemed to crumble into dust. The North American video game industry, a titan built by Atari, had collapsed under its own weight. A tsunami of terrible games, epitomized by the infamous E.T. the Extraterrestrial, had drowned consumer trust. The consensus was clear: video games were just a passing fad. The dream of pixels and joysticks appeared to be over, literally buried alongside millions of unsold cartridges in a New Mexico landfill. But as the West declared game over, a quiet revolution was brewing in the East. In Japan, a company with a century-long history in playing cards was about to hit the reset button, not just for an industry, but for entertainment itself. This is the story of how Nintendo didn't just save gaming, but built an empire. Nintendo's path to global dominance started long before the first joystick was ever wiggled. Founded way back in 1889 by Shigeru Yamauchi, the company began by handcrafting beautiful Hanafuda playing cards. For the better part of a century, Nintendo was a bit of an oddball, trying its hand at everything from taxi services to instant rice, before finally finding its true calling in electronics during the 1970s. This was when a brilliant engineer named Gunpei Yokoi stepped into the picture. His philosophy of using lateral thinking with withered technology led to the creation of the Game & Watch series in 1980. These little handheld electronic games were a smash hit, selling millions worldwide. They were simple, addictive, and incredibly important. The Game & Watch proved Nintendo could innovate in the electronic space, and it taught them invaluable lessons about mass-producing hardware and, crucially, designing fun, engaging games. The company was now ready for the big leagues. Their first knockout punch in the arcades landed in 1981 with Donkey Kong. It was a cultural phenomenon. This game, about a giant ape kidnapping a maiden from a determined carpenter, was unlike anything seen before. It introduced the world to two characters who would become household names: the titular ape and the hero, Jumpman, who would soon be known to billions as Mario. The game was the brainchild of a young, visionary artist named Shigeru Miyamoto. His focus on character, story, and intuitive gameplay showcased Nintendo Shakuo's incredible creative talent and laid the foundation for everything that was to come. Then, in 1983, the same year the American market was imploding, Nintendo launched its home console in Japan, the Family Computer, or Famicom. With its vibrant red and white design, powerful 8-bit hardware, and a library of games that was simply on another level, it was an instant sensation. Games like Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda weren't just fun, they were groundbreaking experiences that defined new genres and captured the hearts of a nation. But across the Pacific, the landscape was a wasteland. Bringing the Famicom to a skeptical American market seemed like an impossible mission. The ghost of Atari loomed large. Retailers had been burned, refusing to stock anything that even remotely resembled a video game. Consumers were cynical, and the very phrase "video game" had become toxic. Nintendo knew they couldn't just sell another console. So they had to perform a miracle. They needed to rebrand an entire industry, rebuild trust from the ground up, and convince a wounded nation that this time it wasn't just a fad. So, in 1985, Nintendo made its move, and it was a stroke of genius. They completely redesigned the Famicom for the American market. The playful toy-like design was replaced with a sleek gray box that looked more like a VCR, something that would fit neatly into a family's entertainment center. They renamed it the Nintendo Entertainment System, deliberately avoiding the word "game." To further distance themselves from the Atari disaster, they launched the NES not as a game console, but as a sophisticated toy. Early bundles even included a charming robotic accessory called ROB and the Zappa light gun, showcasing it as an advanced, interactive experience. But the real magic wasn't just in the marketing, it was in the strategy. First, quality control. To combat the flood of low-quality software that killed Atari, Nintendo introduced the iconic Nintendo Seal of Quality. This wasn't just a sticker, it was a promise. This seal meant that every single game released for the NES had been vetted and approved by Nintendo, guaranteeing a baseline of quality and rebuilding consumer confidence, one cartridge at a time. Second, exclusive titles. Nintendo knew they needed a killer app. They bundled the NES with Super Mario Bros., a game so masterfully designed, so joyful and inventive that it single-handedly sold the system to millions. It was a masterpiece. Then came The Legend of Zelda, which offered a sprawling world of adventure and discovery, and Metroid, which pioneered a genre of atmospheric exploration. These games weren't just fun, they were system sellers that no one else had. And third, third-party management. Where Atari had an open-door policy that led to chaos, Nintendo ran a tight ship. They carefully controlled third-party developers, limiting the number of games they could release per year and enforcing exclusivity. This prevented the market from being flooded with shovelware and ensured a steady stream of high-quality titles. The strategy was a resounding success. The NES became a cultural juggernaut. Kids, teenagers, and even adults were mesmerized by its incredible library of games, from Castlevania to Mega Man. Nintendo wasn't just selling a product, it was creating a new generation of gamers. By the end of the 1980s, 1 in every 3 American households had an NES. Nintendo hadn't just saved the video game industry from extinction. They had resurrected it, redefined its rules, and built a global empire on its foundations, setting the stage for the next 30 years of entertainment. The legacy of Nintendo is simply immeasurable. They didn't just fill a void, they shaped the future. Their relentless focus on quality, game design, and unforgettable characters created the blueprint for modern gaming. From the legendary console wars with Sega in the 90s to the motion control phenomenon of the Wii and the hybrid brilliance of the Switch, Nintendo has consistently challenged the status quo, all while staying true to its core belief that games should above all else be fun. The fall of Atari serves as a powerful cautionary tale of what can go wrong, but the rise of Nintendo is an inspiring story of vision, strategy, and the unwavering power of play. They didn't just rebuild a broken industry, they built a new one, brick by brick, cementing video games as a permanent and cherished part of our culture. And for that, every person who has ever picked up a controller owes a debt of gratitude to the house that Mario built. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.